Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, this is my first video of the new week for obvious reasons. Um, so glad I got through Friday the 13th last week, and I'm a little reluctant to go anywhere on November 16th. Not that it's bad luck or anything, but it has historically been a bad day to go places. I don't know why, but one time I got a ticket, I want to say 2 years ago. And so I'm a bit reluctant to go anywhere on November 16th, just because I so vividly remember it being a bad day. But aside from that, I'm just so glad we're having cooler weather finally, and sunny weather. That is my favorite type of weather, is cool sunny weather with a light breeze. But obviously that's not what I want to talk about in my video. So I think the title of this video will be why I am attacking Angelica, or why it's specifically Angelica that I'm sort of picking on, so to speak, and why it's not so much the other Rugrats that I'm complaining about, although it really is an issue that I have with the whole show, not just that one character on the show. But the reason I only focus on her is because, well, she's, let's face it, the only character I really give a crap about. I feel like she's just a major selling point of the show. She's like, in my mind, she's the most memorable character. Because long before I ever had a Tommy or a Chucky doll, I had my one and only Angelica doll from way back in December of '97, when, unknown to me, her voice actress was turning 39 on that day. And so I have basically watched the show, or kept up with the show all these years, simply because of Angelica. Not because of Tommy and Chucky and Phil and Lil or Kimmy and Dill, because of Angelica. And I'm not going to tell you why Susie isn't a major selling point with me, but I feel like, the older kids in that age group, Angelica, Susie, and to a lesser extent Chucky, and if Harold was more of a main character, and Timmy McNulty, I would include them in this. I feel like the older Rugrats sort of bridged the gap between the average age on the show, which was a little shy of 2, which is why they almost titled it One Something. I feel like the preschool characters sort of bridged the gap between, the other Rugrats and the age group that you would normally find on a children's cartoon, which would be school age and older, like I've talked about before. And by the way, the Arnold kids never felt like the cool older kids, and neither did the Rocket Power or As Told by Ginger, or certainly not Timmy on Odd Parents. None of those other shows felt like cool older kids to me, for the simple reason that I was well into my teens before I ever discovered Nickelodeon. So, I pretty much got through my childhood without ever watching any of these shows, meaning ages 0 through 12. Okay? So I was never an actual child, so to speak, watching these shows, so maybe that is why I take such a dim look at them, because I never saw them through the eyes of a child. Only had a little sister, and I couldn't stand her naive view of these shows, like she, so much of it went right over her head. And I feel like that is the case with a lot of these adamant defenders of the shows, these millennials who have now turned into adults and are defending the show against, people like me that saw it from the perspective of an adult or an older person. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about when I say what I say about it. Okay, so anyway, the reason I'm somewhat attacking Angelica, I feel like every video I ever make is something bad about Angelica. Pretty much the same thing I've been saying about her. But the reason I'm attacking her, so to speak, is because I feel like she is, like the whole entire, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, there was never any question as to whether or not, the younger kids, like Tommy and Phil Lil Dill and Kimmy, there was never any doubt that they were all, a bunch of disgusting diaper babies that, like to talk about poop and gross out the audience. There was never any doubt that they were in diapers, okay? They were wearing big, exaggerated, exposed diapers, okay? And it made me feel very uncomfortable. But, like I say, people just have these, well, especially Angelica, but to a lesser extent, Susie and Chucky. I feel like those were the characters that were most relatable to the audience, which, if you knew what was going on in an episode, you were probably out of diapers yourself. So let's just say that if the audience was just 0 to 12, okay, and let's just say that on average, kids spend almost 3 years, especially if they're a boy, in diapers, okay? So let's just say 3 out of 12, okay? So 3/4 of the kids watching it, if they were 0 through 12, okay, not even counting teens and adults like me, okay, 0 through 12-year-olds, over 3/4 of them were out of diapers. Okay, so I feel like the Angelica and Susie, and to a lesser extent Chucky, characters, that were old enough for preschool in the modern world, I feel like they were put there, for kids, that couldn't quite relate to the whole diaper and baby bottle thing, which for obvious reasons most people can't. Okay, so, that's why I feel like they wanted to present these characters like as if they were completely potty trained and would never crap their pants in a million years, or at least to kids. And but it was almost like, they had some very inexplicable ways of telling the more mature audience that they occasionally did, and you'll never convince me otherwise. Okay? And so, like, I just, the reason I'm so, like, angry, about the way kids defend these characters and their potty training status, like it's more important than the Bible. Well, in some cases they might even hate the Bible, in which case I have no use for them. And it just angers me so much, because it's like, I know what I saw and I know what I heard. And I do not believe that any of the Rugrats characters were ever potty trained to the extent that I am. And, like I say, men can be very stupid about that, because, a lot of times their underwear is so disgusting that they probably ought to be in diapers themselves, even though they're a legal adult. There are plenty of people who, if you ask them, which of course I would never ask someone that, can your 9-year-old wipe his butt? And they would say yes. But their underwear tells a much different story, and it's often left on the bathroom floor for anyone and everyone to see when they go to their house. So, I'm not going to say who I'm thinking about, because probably these kids would be well into adulthood by now. But, people act like it's just so, unimaginable that a 3-year-old cartoon character that throws up everywhere and supposedly wet her bed in the potty episode, which I'm not exactly convinced, because she doesn't look wet. Where is the damp patch on the front of her PJs if she supposedly wet the bed? Which, like I say, I'm not convinced that she wasn't in a diaper, because, just because she had an accident, that doesn't mean she was wearing real underwear. See? And I also don't consider training pants to be underwear. So, Chucky doesn't impress me with these training pants that everyone thinks is big boy underwear. So, yeah, I'm just not convinced that any one of them are potty trained, And another thing is this one episode that everyone likes so much, the Angelica breaks a leg episode. And that's another thing. You know, I mean, she's a compulsive liar. So how do we know that just because she says she had an accident, how do we know she didn't do it on purpose? And how do we know she ever stopped, you know, wetting herself or messing herself or whatever she did? The thing about the broken leg episode with the chocolate pudding scene, one thing I've always wondered, you know, from the very first time I watched that episode, is why did she never once, out of all the things she asked of her aunt and uncle, why did she never once ask to be put on a bedpan or brought to the toilet? You know what I'm saying? It's like we never see any evidence, any clear evidence throughout Rugrats history that she knows how to properly use the toilet and wipe her butt, which is just as important to me. Because if you cannot wipe your butt clean, you're not toilet trained. And I would never want to marry someone who doesn't wipe their butt clean. So yeah, it's like, it just angers me so much, you know, that people will defend the potty training status of this character, you know, when it has never been proven, and it can't be. So, you know, and also, like I say, I mean, I'm not convinced that, you know, when they say people are just so sure that Chucky only wet himself in Curse of the Werewolf, well, I don't believe he did, because he doesn't look wet either. You know, I believe he was number 2. So yeah, it's like, I'm just not convinced of the potty training of any of the characters on that show, and really any other show that's for children. And another thing I've been wanting to talk about on here, which, you know, I've been kind of, I don't know, this kind of got put out of my mind. But a lot of times you can learn a lot about a show from its animation errors, which, believe me, Rugrats are full of animation errors. So, you know, all 3 of the movies have them. A lot of the episodes have them. But at the end of the 3rd movie that I'm so obsessed with, there is a very obvious animation error. Something that was almost included in the final scene, but switched. And one of the animation errors is, like, at the very end, they show it from far away, okay? And this is a black and white screenshot I took of it, which I'll probably throw it away because it's serving no purpose anymore. But, from far away, they show them on the Lipschitz cruise, okay? And they almost put Angelica in her white sailor dress, hanging out with Debbie at the end, okay? But for some strange reason, they switched it to her having changed to her bathing suit when they show them close up. And of course, there's another version of the ending that was deleted and changed, okay, which also has her in a bathing suit. Well, when I looked at this really closely, I thought to myself, now what was so bad about them having her like that at the end? Okay? And so what I did was, I printed it out and superimposed the image onto a sheet of white paper so that I could trace it and color it. And see what was so bad about that image that they had to change it. Why couldn't she have been in her sailor dress? And why couldn't she just hang out with the others at the end? Well, if you don't see what is glaringly obvious, like, it just hits you in the face, you know, as to why they wanted to hide that image from the viewers that still have her on a pedestal, then something is wrong with your eyes. If that is not a diaper, and a full one, I don't know what is. Okay? So here she is on a lawn chair in her big full diaper, which clearly can't hold much more, and it is clearly every bit as much of a diaper as what Lil and Kimmy are wearing. So there we have it. You know, they almost showed you the aftermath in the least graphic way they could. You know, they're never going to show you anything graphic. So there it is. The image that they didn't want viewers to see, and therefore changed it to her in her bathing suit. So, you know, why they have so many young people that just so adamantly defend these characters like that, you know, like they're gods or something. I mean, it's really not so many, it's just a very vocal minority. Um, and they will fight people like me, you know, everywhere they can, which is the reason for the lack of comments. Why there are people like that, I really don't know. Because, I mean, what you could possibly have to gain by defending a villain in a cartoon for children, I'm not exactly sure. But the older I get, the more I'm understanding why so many people, and not just one person, so many teachers, so many family members, so many people I know did not want their kids to watch Rugrats.